Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Trump's meeting today at the White House with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and the leaders of Britain, Germany, France, Finland, and Italy, as well as NATO Chief Mark Rutte and the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. This comes 3 days after Trump met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska but failed to secure a peace agreement. Ahead of the Alaska summit, Trump had vowed Russia would face very severe consequences if Putin did not agree to stop the war, but Trump then dropped his call for a ceasefire. Putin's insisting on Ukraine giving up the eastern Donbass as a condition for ending the war. Putin spoke Friday.
But at the same time, we are convinced that for the Ukrainian settlement to be sustainable and long-term, all the root causes of the crisis, which have been discussed repeatedly, must be eliminated. All of Russia's legitimate concerns must be taken into account, and a fair balance in the security sphere in Europe and the world as a whole must be restored. I agree with President Trump. He spoke about this today, that, of course, Ukraine's security must also be ensured.
Putin and Trump did not take any questions after giving brief remarks. On Sunday night, Trump posted a message online saying, quote, Zelensky of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to, or he can continue to fight, unquote. Trump said Zelensky must give up on joining NATO or reclaiming Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014. Trump officials have floated the idea of the U.S. offering Ukraine some sort of security guarantee. Meanwhile, Zelensky's accused Putin of trying to humiliate diplomatic efforts by launching attacks over the past day that killed at least 10 people, including 3 children in Kharkiv and Zaporizhzhia. The U.S. State Department's halted all visitor visas from Gaza, including for children who need urgent medical care. The move was announced Saturday, one day after far-right activist Laura Loomer posted a video complaining that injured Palestinian children are coming to the United States for care. The U.S.-based Palestine Children's Relief Fund decried what it called a, quote, dangerous and inhumane decision, unquote. The group said, quote, medical evacuations are a lifeline for the children of Gaza who would otherwise face unimaginable suffering or death due to the collapse of medical infrastructure in Gaza, unquote. In more news from Gaza, Amnesty International has accused Israel of carrying out a, quote, deliberate campaign of starvation that's, quote, systematically destroying the health, well-being, and social fabric of Palestinian life, unquote. At least 263 Palestinians have now starved to death amidst the Israeli blockade. Meanwhile, Israel's intensifying its attacks on Gaza City as it moves to forcibly evict the city's entire population. On Sunday, an Israeli airstrike hit Al-Ahli Hospital in Gaza City, killing at least 7 people. Hamas has accused Israel of engaging in a new wave of genocide and displacement over its plans to relocate all residents of Gaza City. This is a Palestinian medical student in Gaza City who sent this voice memo to a colleague in the U.S.
I just wanted to die right now. I think it's the only way I will find relief. I don't want to be displaced again, maybe. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I wish I could see you soon, even just for a moment, and hug you before I die.
Israel's Channel 12 has aired leaked recordings of Israel's former military intelligence chief saying 50 Palestinians must die for every victim of October 7th. In the recording, Aharon Haliva is heard saying, quote, it does not matter now if they are children. He said, quote, they need a Nakba every now and then to feel the price, unquote. In Israel, over 500,000 protested in Tel Aviv Sunday to demand an end to the war in Gaza and for the Israeli government to reach a deal to free the hostages in Gaza. Over 1 million Israelis took part in protests across the country as the families of Israeli hostages called for a nationwide day of stoppage. This is Lishay Maran Levy, the wife of Omri Maran, who is being held in Gaza.
Last week, we decided to call to everyone in Israel, to all the citizens, to stop takeover day and stop all the country in one saying, please release the hostages, bring them home, and stop the war. We are very caring about our dear that over there. My Omri is over there 681 days. I miss him. Our daughters, Ronnie and Alma, really missed him. And I'm really, really scared and afraid about his life. I want him here, and I want all the hostages here.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu blasted the protesters, saying, quote, those who call to end the war, delay the hostages' release, and guarantee that the horrors of October 7th will return, unquote. We'll have more on the protests later in the broadcast. The Trump administration's expanding its takeover of Washington, D.C., with the Republican governors of West Virginia, Ohio, and South Carolina agreeing to send at least 700 additional National Guard troops to D.C. In a major shift in policy, NPR reports National Guard troops in the nation's capital may soon be carrying weapons. Meanwhile, the Trump administration's backed down from its plan to install the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration as D.C.'s emergency police chief after D.C. sued U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. This comes as video has gone viral of 6 masked federal officers detaining and tackling a food delivery driver after he left a coffee shop in Northwest Washington Saturday morning. The officers violently tackled the man, Christian Enrique Carias Torres of Venezuela, to the ground and appeared to use a stun gun on him. He was then taken away in an unmarked car as bystanders screamed at the officers. On Saturday, thousands of protesters marched to the White House to condemn Trump's takeover of Washington, D.C.
Troops on the corner, feds on the block!
Troops on the corner, feds on the block!
The fascist takeover must be stopped!
The fascist takeover must be stopped!
New York immigration advocates are demanding the release of a 7-year-old elementary school student who was taken into custody along with her 19-year-old brother and their mother at a routine check-in with ICE at 26 Federal Plaza in Manhattan last week. This is the first known ICE arrest of a New York City child under the age of 18 during Trump's second term. The city reports the girl and her mother were transferred to a newly reopened family detention camp in Dilley, Texas, while the teen was sent to the troubled Delaney Hall ICE jail in Newark, New Jersey. The family is from Ecuador and lives in Queens. This comes as some Democratic lawmakers are calling for New York Governor Kathy Hochul to shut the power off at 26 Federal Plaza to stop what they call ICE's occupation of the building. CNN is reporting the U.S. military is deploying more than 4,000 Marines and sailors to the southern Caribbean, along with nuclear-powered attack submarines, spy aircraft, several destroyers, and a guided missile cruiser. The move comes after President Trump signed a secret directive authorizing the use of military force to carry out operations in Latin America under the guise of targeting drug cartels. The Congressional Budget Office has confirmed President Trump's new budget law will trigger over $500 billion in Medicare cuts in coming years. Democratic Representative Brendan Boyle of Pennsylvania said, quote, Republicans knew their tax breaks for billionaires would force over $500 billion in Medicare cuts, and they did it anyway, he said. The Republican law also includes $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts. In northwestern Pakistan and Kashmir, at least 337 people have died in climate change-induced flash floods. Dozens of people remain missing as landslides partially buried at least 10 villages. In Bolivia, 2 right-wing candidates are headed for a presidential runoff in October. The results of Sunday's election end more than a generation of rule by the socialist MAS party, which stands for Movement for Socialism. The Bolivian Senator Rodrigo Paz, the son of a former Bolivian president, placed first in Sunday's vote and will face off against the former right-wing president Jorge Tuto Quiroga, who finished second. Former Bolivian President Evo Morales, who was barred from running, urged his supporters to deface their ballots in protest. In the end, 19% of the ballots were deemed to be invalid. The official candidate from the MAS party won just over 3% of the vote, barely enough for the party to keep its legal standing as a national party. El Salvador's government will continue to detain more than 80,000 people accused of being gang members and swept up under President Nayib Bukele's state of emergency. Salvadoran lawmakers voted Friday to extend their imprisonment for at least 2 more years without trial, even as prosecutors have not yet presented any evidence linking tens of thousands of people to gangs. Protests broke out in the capital, San Salvador, with the families of detainees calling for their relatives' release and an end to Bukele's state of emergency. This is a Salvadoran mother whose son is being detained.
My son has been there for 4 years. On May 10th, he completed 3 years, and now he's entering his 4th. Now I hear the news. They're saying there's a 2-year extension for him. How many more years do they have to hold him? Why do they give me this and not release him?
And the longtime Florida radio and TV host Rob Laurai has died at the age of 70. He was among the founding members of WMNF Community Radio in Tampa, where he worked for over 35 years. Rob Laurai appeared on Democracy Now! A number of times, including in 2009, when we broadcast Democracy Now! From Tampa.
So, frankly, I wonder about the model of public broadcasting, whether or not, relying on those local donations, relying on CPB funding for a small fraction of the funding, whether or not that's a good model. I often look over at England and look at those licenses that people pay for radio and television and think, wouldn't that be a better way to fund broadcasting? We wouldn't have to go hat in hand to Congress every year and ask for a small appropriation.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.